You know, there's a saying in football that to win big, you gotta spend big. Now, whether you agree with that or not, one thing is true. While spending more money will not guarantee you any success, it certainly puts you in a more favorable position. In France alone, PSG spent more than 1.4 billion euros in the past decade to win 8 league titles, as well as countless other domestic cups that I'm honestly not gonna count. Although they're yet to win the Champions League, despite their best efforts. By the way, I recently made a video on why PSG should be considered football's monumental failure. Feel free to check it out, but only after this video. Meanwhile, England's Manchester City spent around £1.7 billion in more or less the same period to win 6 league titles and reign their domination on the English football. Although, much like PSG, they're yet to win the Champions League as well, despite their best efforts. That being said, the situation at Milan is quite different. You see, gone were the days of European dominations. This was a time of financial ruin and a legacy of a once great club with no light at the end of the tunnel. With years of mismanagements, both on and off the pitch, Milan fell into a long and painful banter era with no end in sight. I mean, people talk about an Arsenal banter era or a Liverpool banter era. Let me tell you something, the Milan banter era was far worse. Milan was, well, in a financial mess. I would even say near bankruptcy when a Chinese ownership took over the club. To have any hope for future, Milan had to restructure their whole club in order to compete again. I'll probably have to make a separate video on the mess that was going on in the club. Fast forward to these days, Milan are the champions of Italy with a much healthier position both financially and as a football club. That being said, Milan's rise wasn't just due to sheer luck. It's been 3 years of work behind the scenes and a football project led by the great Paolo Maldini. But the question is, what makes Milan's rise so impressive for the neutral? And what makes Milan an interesting case study for modern football? Well, to do that, we gotta go back, way back to 2018, when Elliott management took over the club. It's summer 2018, and Elliott management are the new owners of Milan. But there's a weird twist to this. You see, they didn't just buy Milan. The club just, well, fell into their laps, because the previous owner couldn't repay the loan they took for the purchase of Milan. And since the loan was taken from Elliott management, they were the default owners without any intention to own Milan. So yeah, not the most reassuring of times ahead.
Oh shit, here we go again.
I gotta be honest, as a Milan fan, I didn't really have a good feeling about this. There were many question marks over Elliott. Since it kinda fell into their laps, was Milan about to be just a business asset for Elliott without any footballing project behind it? Was Elliott gonna sell Milan just to make a quick dime out of it without thinking about the consequences of what's gonna happen to Milan? Well, those doubts were partially cleared when Elliott brought back Paolo Maldini as a director and Ivan Gazidis as their CEO. You see, in the past, Paolo Maldini rejected the chance of joining Milan due to the lack of ambitions on their project. He also didn't want to be just a publicity face for Milan directors, which is something that we see quite often in other football clubs. And I gotta be honest with you, I really respect that from him. I wouldn't expect anything less from the great Paolo Maldini. So the fact that Elliott brought him on was reassuring that he was given certain guarantees on how to move the club forward. Milan's sensible financial management has been a key point in its operation ever since they were taken over by Elliott. No longer were large contracts being offered for players that ended up being deadwoods. No longer was the club signing players just for the name of them, like Beckham, Robinho, and Fernando Torres. By the way, I'm very fond of Beckham's time at Milan. But let's be honest, he was signed for marketing reasons. Matter of fact, let me tell you something. Milan only spent around 65 million euros on their squad in this title-winning season, while replacing some key players that left as well. This amount is significantly lower than 126 million euros by Juventus and 100 million euros spent by Roma. Milan's total wage bill is 81 million euros, significantly lower than Inter's 140 million euros and almost half of 160 million euros by Juventus. Milan's commitment to not overspend on wage bills wasn't without controversy. Milan decided not to be held ransom for their goalkeeper, Gigio Donnarumma's ridiculous wage demands. So they were more than okay to let this generational talent leave for free and replace him with Mike Maignan from Lille for only 14 million euros, who kept 17 clean sheets in the league this season. 17 clean sheets! That's mad! Honestly, Mike Maignan made us forget who Donnarumma was. And you know what's even more impressive? The cost of signing Mike Maignan and his entire salary package and commissions was still lower than just renewing Donnarumma, while also signing Fikayo Tomori, Chelsea's reserve centre-back, for 25 million and turning him into one of the league's most dependable defenders. One of the most impressive aspects of this Milan team is that it's one of the youngest teams in Europe, and despite having a 40-year-old Zlatan Ibrahimovic and a 35-year-old Olivier Giroud, the average age of the first team is normally around 24 years old, which makes the team the youngest in Italy and one of the youngest in Europe's top 5 leagues. When Milan lost their starting centre-backs, Simon Kjaer and Fikayo Tomori, to injuries, they decided not to panic buy any players during the January window, and instead trusted academy graduate Matteo Gabbia and a young Pierre Kalulu to step up. Speaking of whom, when Milan signed a young Pierre Kalulu from Lyon's academy in 2020, he didn't have a single senior game to his name. And just a year and a half later, he became one of the most dependable Milan players in the league title run, despite being only 21. This is a player that Milan signed for only €500,000. Literally 2 weeks of Kevin De Bruyne's salary. And together with Fikayo Tomori, they only conceded 2 goals in Milan's last 11 games, which had the likes of Napoli, Atalanta, Lazio, and Fiorentina in that run. If you don't follow Serie A closely, these are hard teams to keep a clean sheet against. This season, Milan conceded the least amount of goals along with Napoli, which is a further testament to the quality of the young defenders. Key players like Sandro Tonali and Ismail Ben Nasser were signed from relegated teams as young prospects and have grown to become the pillars of this Milan project, with Tonali practically making himself undroppable. Theo Hernandez was a young left-back at Real Madrid. Unable to overthrow a world-class Marcelo, he was looking for other opportunities. Paolo Maldini personally flew to Madrid to sell him the Milan project, and today he's one of the best left-backs in Europe. Rafael Leao was just a young Portuguese forward with only 1 full season of senior football, and today, at 22 years of age, he is Serie A's MVP winner with 11 goals and 10 assists as a winger. Honestly, not a bad journey. But at the end of the day, you can't just stockpile young talent and expect to win. What makes Milan quite unique isn't just the youngest average age of the squad, but the mentoring that takes place between senior players and the young players. Veterans like Olivier Giroud and Zlatan Ibrahimovic provide ongoing mentoring and the leadership for this young Milan team. Unlike many other teams with superstars, Milan couldn't really afford to bring superstars to the team, and instead had to rely on developing from within. By the way, just a reminder, don't forget to leave a like or comment. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, as a lot of time goes into making these videos. I really enjoy reading your comments. Thank you for your love and support. It's quite often that clubs look for other managers on the market to take them to the next level, even though the current manager is doing alright, and sometimes it succeeds. A prime example is Jose Mourinho replacing Roberto Mancini at Inter, despite the back-to-back titles that were won by Mancini, and Jose Mourinho ended up winning a long-awaited Champions League with Inter. On the other side of the argument, Real Madrid replaced Carlo Ancelotti with Rafa Benitez in 2015. Who does that? And of course that backfired massively. I mean, what did you expect to happen? Anyway, when Milan brought in Stefano Pioli as a coach mid-season, it was only seen as a stopgap solution to the next manager. It wasn't the most popular decisions by the club. Matter of fact, the hashtag #PioliOut was one of the most trending hashtags in the social media. While he hasn't won anything as a manager, Pioli has a proven track record in getting the house in order for the next manager to come. And that's exactly what happened. The Milan board was tempted to replace Pioli with Ralf Rangnick as a manager and a director. On the surface, that made perfect sense. Pioli was just a stabilizer, and Ralf Rangnick was a guru who helped the Red Bull empire to grow to what it is today. So yeah, as you can tell, it wasn't the most ideal environment for Stefano Pioli to succeed. The fans wanted you out, the club wanted you out, and you had to deal with broken pieces of a squad that's broken from years of failure. But an impressive 12-game unbeaten run didn't really leave any other option for Milan but to keep their trust in Pioli, and the decision paid off. The next season, Pioli led Milan to return to Champions League after 8 years of absence. And this season, well, he led Milan to a league title after 11 long years. Indeed, Pioli was on fire, pun severely intended. Overall, Milan's league title shows us that while spending money can put you in a better position, sensible financial management, coupled with empowering leadership that develops a team from the inside out, can often lead to successful outcomes. This Milan team is an interesting case study to follow, especially those clubs that don't have the luxury of spending state wealth money. I see strong parallels between Milan and Liverpool in terms of the way they run their football project. Milan still has a long distance to go if they want to get back to their former European domination. But one thing's for sure, the future looks bright for Milan as long as they stick to their values that got them here in the first place.